So, first topic, pains and gains. Well, if we look at the pains in a typical pains in an expense management process, and how we as Delaware come with a solution for it, then we only see one, or no, we see a certain solution, and we are convinced of that solution because it's suitable for each and every company, each and every size in each and every industry. And talking of or about pain points, for us all boils down to one and only one thing, and that is the fact that a lot of expense management processes, they are not yet digitized. We see a lot of manual and paper-based processes, and that is leading to a lot of frustration. And the number one downside of the expense management process not being digitized already is the fact that it's time-consuming for everybody involved in the process, whether it is the employee that is creating and submitting the expense report, or the manager that needs to approve it, and eventually the person of AP, of the accounts payable or the bookkeeping department that needs to post the expense report. It takes time if it's on paper, if it's manual. And not only time, it also introduces the likelihood of having errors. And because with the manual typing over, a human error is easily made. And that can be a costly mistake. So that's the number one pain point that we see. The second pain point has to do with the fact that you have to engage your customer or your internal customer base, your employees. For any expense process, or for any process for that matter to work in a decent way, the bar for people to engage with it needs to be set as low as possible, because otherwise you will lose them. And people, and especially the people that were born surrounded by iPads and touchscreens and apps, they are used to convenience. They are and offering anything less than that will hamper their willingness to adopt a tool, a process. And if they don't adopt it, you don't get the proper data in the system for the management to take well-informed decisions. So that's the second pain point that we see, that you have to make it appealing for the user. And talking about data and data in the system, we also see that at certain organizations there is a plethora of tools and processes when it comes to expense management solutions. And to get meaningful information out of that landscape, that is a challenge, and that's a difficulty. And it's not impossible, but it takes time again. So having one global system is imperative to make it count. And then as a last pain point, we see that especially the expense management process, more than other processes, is inherently subject to changes, internal changes, external changes. So internal changes, and then we talk about the company policy, policy that you as a company enforce, where certain people, certain profiles in the company can do other stuff, have other rules imposed than others. And if that changes a lot, it's a hell of a job to keep your process and your system in sync. And that's something that you have in your own hands. On the other hand, there's also the tax regulations and other regulations that are imposed by governments. They are also continuously changing. So keeping again your system in sync is difficult. and especially if it's a manual-based, paper-based system. So a way for optimization is needed. And yeah, we talked about the pain points, and we as Delaware, we have a decent track record of doing ERP implementations. And during those ERP implementations, customers, they introduced us, they confronted us with their requirements for an expense management system. And we looked for solutions. We thought about custom-made, bespoke solutions. We looked into the market for tailor-made solutions, already things that were focused on expense management process. And actually quite quickly and easily, we came to the conclusion that SAP Concur is our tool of preference, the thing that we want to position at our customers. For those that don't know SAP Concur, it's a company that was founded in the 90s in the United States, and from the very start they were focused on spend management processes and cloud-based applications. And in 2014 they were acquired by SAP, and as of then they are on the price list of SAP. And with that there came also a financial backing of SAP, and that brought a lot of financial stability. And of course, there is also an aligned roadmap. And if SAP goes in one direction, then the SAP Concur solution will follow suit. Apart from that, SAP Concur covers the full end-to-end process when it comes to travel and expense management. And basically, it consists of three major components: travel, expense, and invoice. And all of them, they work perfectly together to have an end-to-end solution. But for the remainder of this webinar, we will focus solely on the expense management solution. Next slide. What we see here is a typical process. It is the process with the green steps are the tasks to be done. I just want to highlight those things that make SAP Concur stand out. And first of all, with the creation of expense reports, we want our employees, our internal customers, to having to do as least as possible, because the inputs on the left, receipt, image, credit card transaction, supplier e-receipt, actually they contain all the necessary information for the remainder of the process. So the only thing that we expect from an employee is to create an expense report, enter or include the expenses that they made, and it all can be done with a very user-friendly mobile app. And after creating the expense report and doing an allocation for which cost object were those expenses made, they need to submit. And then the system, the next step is the approval. And for that, the system will automatically derive the correct approver based on the information in the expense report. Of course, the approver will also have all necessary information, including the receipts that were received from taxis and restaurants and so forth. So that's all visible in a mobile app, and approving can be done on the fly while traveling. And after the approval, the system will automatically post the expense report in the backend system. There is then no room for human errors, because the GL accounts are automatically derived, and the amounts and the cost objects and everything that was already in the expense report will be taken over automatically and correctly. Summarizing, coming to conclusion, by implementing SAP Concur for your expense management solution, you simplify everything for everyone. From left to right, we get more insights because all the information will be in a uniform way in one and only one system and drives your decision making and your budgeting for the future. Secondly, yeah, all the users involved, they will usually benefit from the tool because it's a simple to use tool with mobile capabilities, and the fact that you have the manual interaction is limited due to the integration of credit card feeds and e-receipts. So that speeds up and makes it very enjoyable and appealing for the users. Then the third thing, the streamlining of the implementation. If business process owners they are looking at an implementation, then well, the speed to value is very high because Concur comes with is a prepackaged solution with localization templates. So all those local regulations they are contained in those templates, so you don't have to start from an empty page. And of course, those templates they are also continuously updated. If new tax regulations are launched, then those templates will be updated, and you as a customer will be notified about it for you then to decide to adopt them or not. And lastly, also the IT department will be happy because the total cost of ownership in maintaining the solution, because there's quite some interfacing with the backend solution and with an HR solution. Well, if those components, and here you have a high-level overview of the architecture, if those components are SAP branded, then those interfaces here, the arrows on this visual, they come out of the box. They are very good well working, and there's no need to build something. So that was that. Next up is the live demo. So Sam, go ahead.
Thank you, Bart, for this elaboration on the pains and gains of expense management. And my apologies for the technical hiccup we had. Zoom did a number on me. So indeed, Sam will guide you through the world of SAP Concur. Take it away.
Yep, thank you, Mathieu and Bart. So indeed, so the next chapter in this webinar is the live demo. So if someone can go to the next slide. I will show you actually the process of today. And so we have in this slide 3 actors, and we have the expense user, the approver, and also the processor. So the expense user, what I will show you in this demo is that the user will scan a receipt, and then through OCR, so that's the technology used to scan the documents, some data like expense type, transaction date, amount will be recognized. And based on that, you can already create your expenses in your expense report. Also, I will show you how automatically matching can happen through expenses that were paid by a corporate card that matches the expenses that you created through the OCR. Then I'll also show you how you can allocate expenses, add extra expenses, and also personal car mileage to your report. And in the end, of course, also submit your report into approval. Talking of which, so the next step in this process is the approver. So if you can click on next, and the approver will show. Yeah, so that person will approve the expense reports. And so this can be done via the mobile phone. And so actually you can see here on the 2 actors that they're holding a mobile phone. So that means that you can do this in the mobile phone. But also on the desktop version, you can of course send your reports into approval and so on, and also approve the expense reports. And then the last actor in the flow is the processor. So that user will also have to approve the expense reports. Now the processor is usually someone from accounting who checks the report for the last time, checks, for example, the VAT derivation, and will approve it. And in this demo that I will show you, we have our Concur system connected to an SAP system. where does the processor can then check the postings in SAP and also check the attachments that are imported into SAP. And that will be done in the desktop version of Concur. So if all goes well, I will now start sharing my screens through the mobile phone. Then someone needs to stop sharing the screen and then I can do it.
Thanks, maybe just before we go into the demo, I'd like to highlight, should there be any questions during this session, please make sure to ask them in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. And at the end, there will be some time to provide the answers to your questions. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mathieu. And by now you should all see my screen from my mobile phone. So the first thing that we can do, so this is actually the application that you can download in the iOS or Google Play Store from SAP Concur. And so what we'll do now is scan a receipt and create an expense from it. So here I have just like a dummy receipt. It's a train ticket from Ghent to Antwerp. That was at €10.80. So the first thing that the system will ask me, okay, is the amount correct? And so I click on the amount and I click on done. And then you will see that Concur will start the analysis of the receipt, and then some data will be recognized. So for example, expense type and also the date can be recognized. You can also see here on the blue bar that the expense assistant is active. So that's a functionality that you can toggle on or off. But it makes it easier for you to create expense reports, because actually, if you go to expense claims, you will see that a report that is created for me automatically. So that's the expense assistance functionality. If you click on that, so you will see that we have a report, February expenses, that now consists of my expense that I created, that I just scanned. So you can see that so the amount is recognized. We can also see that an expense type is chosen. But sometimes for some expenses or expense types, we need to add additional information. So for example, here, the system asked me to add a transport type. So here I would say it's train. And then you can see that the transaction date is recognized. And also the vendor name, we will see that it will be overwritten with the credit card import, but also that the currency is euros, and then the amount is €10.80. You also see a red marker here on the city of purchase, also with the import of the credit card transaction, and this will be overwritten. So I just have to add this file into Concur. So it's a bit of a technical import that I need to do, but you need to think about and automatically transaction feeds from the bank coming that will update this expense in this report. So if you just have a little patience, I will now upload the transaction. And as you can see now on my screen, there is a new icon here. And here it says that this expense has a linked source. So actually now the credit card transaction came into my profile, and then it automatically is matched to the receipt that I scanned. So that way it's a very nice integration between scanning the receipt and also your expenses that come through the company corporate cards. So here, let's finish this expense, also filling in some data. So here I would say, this expense was in Ghent. And then you can see here in the payment type that the corporate card is now selected. So in this case, it would be R plus Visa. And here I save my expense. So now what I will do, I will add another expense. again through OCR recognition, and this time it's a parking expense in the Kouter in Ghent. And also here, Concur or the OCR will recognize that this is a 36.30 euros. So I click on that. I click on done. And again, it will do some analysis on the receipt. And you will see that this expense is again moved automatically to my report February expenses. And if you click on our expense parking, you will see that the parking expense type is recognized, that the transaction date is okay. You automatically filled in also the city of purchase, the currency, the payment type, which is cash, or I paid it with my own card, or with really cash money, and the amount. Also, if I need to do it, I can also add this as personal. Then this expense will not be paid back or reimbursed to you. And if I want, I can also add some comments. In this expense, I want to also allocate it to another cost object. So all my expenses that I create are assigned to a cost center. Well, let's say that we want to change that. We press here the 3 dots, and then we say, okay, allocate. If we click on the plus, we can say, okay, this expense needs to be allocated for 100%, not to back office. But let's say it was IT services, and I click on create. So in that way, I easily change the allocation of this expense to another cost center. So to the last expense that I will add to my report is actually a personal car mileage. So therefore I click here on mileage. So right below the screen. And I select the report where I want to add that expense. So the first thing that I need to do is add the routes. So here I will do, let's say that we traveled from Delaware Ghent, and here it's integrated with Google Maps. So here it recognizes Delaware Ghent is in the blue tower here in Ghent. So I select it. Also the destination, let's say that we traveled to Delaware, Netherlands. And also here he knows, okay, this is the address of Delaware, Netherlands. Then here I have some options. You can toggle on or off the avoid tolls or avoid highways if you want. But here I say, okay, use route. Then the next thing I need to do is enter a transaction date. Let's say that we did that on the 24th of February. And then you can see that an amount is filled in, and so 59.31 euros. So this is based on a rate that is configured into the Concur system. Then also this form, so this expense type requires me to add a purpose. So I click here on purpose of the trip and I put here demo. Okay. Here I will go ahead and save my expense, click on close, and then I'm back in my expense report. So actually this is my report that I created. These are my expenses that I created and I need to be reimbursed. If you check here the details, you can see the allocation summary. So how much euros that is allocated to which cost center in this case. You can also see if you have comments. You can see the report name, report dates, and you will see, for example, because there's a company card, that 10.80 euros will be due to Air Plus Visa, and the employee will be paid back 95.61 euros. Okay. Also here you can check your receipts again, what you uploaded into the system. So what I will now do is send this report into approval. I click here on submit. I need to accept a user electronic agreement. And now my report is submitted. So actually in my profile, a manager is assigned, and now my manager needs to approve. So therefore, I will just stop sharing my screen. I will log in as the approver, and I will show you how you can then approve it via or through an email from Concur. Okay, so I'll now start sharing again on my mobile phone. Just a moment. Share screen and start the broadcast. So you should see my screen again. So what I will do now is I will go to, I have a map set here for SAP Concur. And then see, you will get an email that I need to approve a report that was sent to my email. So I click on View Report. It will automatically bring me to the Concur page. And here I need to log in, of course, with the credentials of the user. But mostly, if you, for example, are using SSO, then you're automatically logged in into the mobile app, of course. So if I check here the app, and that should work. Then you will see here that I have a report that I need to approve. So I click on that. Then you can see as a manager, you can check what expenses are in the report, what details are. You can, of course, check each individual expense and have a look at that. Okay, so as an approver, you can send it back to the employee with a certain text, or you can, of course, approve it. So you click here on approve. You can add also a comment and you say approve. Yeah? In this moment, also your expense user will be informed that your expense report is approved and it's going to the next stage of the process flow. So I will now stop sharing my screen here on my phone. And now we have to go back to these slides. I don't know if Bart maybe can share his screen again.
Yeah, I will share my screen, so no worries.
Yeah.
Window. Normally you should be able to see my screen again. Can you confirm some?
Yes, I just want to go to the slide of the expense user again. So we have a quick summary what we actually did.
Yeah.
So if you can go, I think 2 slides. No, it's slide 17.
Slide 17. One more.
Yes.
Yes.
So here you can see what I actually did. So I scanned a receipt with the OCR technology. I actually did it twice, one for a train ticket and also for a parking ticket. Then you also saw that there is automatically a match between credit card expense and the expense that you generated through the OCR. I allocated an expense, added an extra expense, and also some personal car mileage. And then I sent the report in approval. What I actually showed here is also here in this slide, and we will send you the videos separately so you can have a second look at that. So in the next slide, that's actually at the approver step. Mathieu.
Slide 18.
Yes.
Okay, go there. Voilà.
Yeah, that's the same. So here, the approver will approve the expense report through the email. That's actually what I showed here. I noticed I had some technical difficulties on my application, but normally if you already logged in into the mobile app, then automatically you will be routed to the mobile app and you can then directly approve it from there. So then the last one, the last person in the flow is of course the processor. So I have to share my screen again, if that's possible, Mathieu.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Yes, thank you. And if all goes well, you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually at the desktop version of SAP Concur, and I'm now logged in as a processor. So a processor can actually process the reports. So now if I go to claims ready for processing, so these are all the reports that are now ready for me to be processed. So if I click here on this one, so that is the one that I created today, February expenses. Then you can see here the report, and also, of course, all the expenses that are listed in this report. And you can easily see, okay, this one is, for example, created by a credit card. And so it was imported by a credit card of 10.80 €. And also this one is, for example, allocated to another cost center than the default cost center. So in this case, a lot of things can be changed, but also checked by the processor. So what a processor now can do is can say, okay, it requires extra review. It can be sent to the employee or sent to an extra approver for additional approver, or approve the expense reports. Yeah. Also, if you would look, for example, at let's say here public transport, you can see that some VAT is also derived, and so that means that we can reclaim 61 cents for this expense of public transport. And also, if you're connected to an SAP backend system, also you need to have, for example, a tax code. But you can see that some VAT calculation is also done in Concur. So I will now approve the report. And now this report is actually sent to an SAP backend system. What I will show you now is actually an SAP system. It's a public cloud system, but it's from SAP. So what I will now do is actually initiate the loop. So that's actually a job that you can schedule each 5 or 10 minutes, but I will trigger it now manually. And now it will take that report, so my February expenses, into my backend system. And automatically the postings will happen into accounting. And also what you will see is that some attachments will be there also. So you can see here that my report, February expenses, is successfully imported into my system. If I double click on that, I will go to my accounting documents in SAP, where you can see all the expenses that are created. I can also see which cost center that it's been used, and because I need to, the employee is also created as a supplier because I need to reimburse that employee. I'm also created as a supplier. So you can see how much that we need to pay back the supplier in this case. And also here in attachments, you will see 2 attachments, and I can download these ones. So you can see here that I have, for example, uploaded a photo of the parking expense, but also the same for public transport. So the receipt that I used for the public transport expense type. So this is just to show you how easy it is that those systems are connected to each other, and that the postings automatically can happen. Okay. I will stop sharing my screen now. And if you can bring up the PowerPoint again, Mathieu, thanks.
Yeah. Should be visible again.
Yes. So apart from all the functionality that we've shown here, SAP Concur, of course, has a bunch of other functionalities. And so the first one that I did not show is, for example, email receipts. So as an expense user, you can actually mail your receipts to a dedicated email address of Concur, and automatically these receipts will then be imported into your profile. Also, a functionality is per diems, travel allowances. So some companies allow travel allowances for their employees. So that means if they have to travel to a foreign country for business reasons, they can have a fixed amount to cover their expenses, such as breakfast or lunch. So that's also supported by Concur. Then integrate with third-party apps. So for example, Uber, if you connect with Uber, and all your trips that you did with Uber will be imported as a receipt in Concur. Also, a company like Choose you can integrate where automatically based actually on your travel data, your carbon emissions will be calculated. And if you then actually create or generate a report for all your employees, you can have an overview what the amount of carbon emissions is. And based on that, you can create some policy decisions, of course, that you can work towards a more sustainable company. Cash advances, so that's also supported by Concur. So if a employee requests cash advances, also this can be done through Concur. You can even set up a workflow for that, and also that is nicely integrated with your backend system. The last one is that if you have a hotel invoice, usually it consists of multiple lines. So for example, you have your hotel nights. You can also have parking or breakfast on your hotel invoice. Well, this is something that also the OCR, so the technology that scans the document, also is capable of to recognize. Okay. So there are a bunch of other functionalities which that also Concur supports, but I tried my best to now highlight the most important ones. So now over to Sander, who will explain something more about the business case.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Next slide, please. Yes, perfect. Well, hello everyone. My name is Sander Koppian, working at SAP Concur since 3 years in various commercial roles. And just now you may have heard from my colleagues from Delaware for the first time or more than once already about the benefits of SAP Concur and seeing what the solution looks like in concrete terms. But in the end, we understand that a solid business case matters more than ever and is the foundation for you and your peers for a well-considered decision. Our customers don't turn to SAP Concur for our technology nor our application. They turn to us because they want concrete business outcomes, just like you, I guess. Broad goals your organization strives to achieve to meet your commitments to shareholders, employees, clients, and suppliers. And to be successful, we must identify your business outcomes where SAP Concur can have an impact. And therefore, today I will show you briefly how an expense report that almost writes itself translates to much more than just a better expense reporting process. So a frequently asked question by your peers is, why should I consider SAP Concur? And I'd like to highlight this for you using 4 arguments and the images on the slide. First one, global presence and expertise. So SAP Concur is a true global organization in the languages offered and ability to meet local requirements and regulations through our sophisticated country templates. Deployed in more than 150 countries, we service approximately 50,000 customers. We constantly rethink and reinvent our processes to positively impact our customers. And during COVID, we launched Detect, an AI-driven audit functionality, for instance, but also tax assurance to help you reclaim foreign and domestic VAT and comply better with local regulations, as you can see on the bottom left of the image. Let's move to the center of the image. You see the circle with the person in the middle, future-proof end-to-end solution. With one connected platform, you can get full visibility of spend before, during, and after it's happening, and can efficiently manage both the company's travel as the expenses. And our network of App Center partners, which you can see on top, which connect to our data, is unmatched in the marketplace. And finally, on the bottom left, you will see the power of SAP. Integration of SAP is a differentiator that no competitor has. A true bi-directional data feed from SAP to Concur and backwards. And SAP Concur makes use of SAP's intelligent technologies and machine learning to extract, process, and contextualize data from receipts and invoices. Machine learning makes it possible to audit 100% of your expenses. And also machine learning allows SAP Concur to help locate your employees, use natural language, navigate travel and booking options, and integrate with partner apps across the largest ecosystem in the business. And last, but definitely not least, Sustainability. Today, macroeconomic and also political factors are pushing companies to rethink and re-engineer their automation process. Where new challenges occur, such as sustainability, reducing their carbon footprint, reporting on emissions, more sustainable alternatives for flights, greener hotels, you name it. Or the new way of flexible work for your employees, changing policies, maybe an increase in the buying office equipment. SAP Concur is here to help companies to adjust and align their new strategies to fit the new reality and become an intelligent, sustainable, and connected enterprise. Next slide, please. Yeah, perfect. And you will see changes within weeks of moving from semi or manual to cloud-based expense reporting. And those short-term effects turn into long-term impact. Below on the slide, you will see a list of benefits combined with savings defined in time, money, FTEs, or resources. And let me start with the first one. Increased compliance. It results in a reduction of your total spend up to 9% because your policy is the backbone in our system and built into the solution. Second one, less duplicates. Less spent because duplicates will be flagged up front before expenses are submitted, since they are already recognized through the Concur database. Third one, mileage. Decrease mileage spent because Concur can automatically capture and document your mileage up to 7% savings through our integration with Google Maps. Number 4, lower cost per expense, as submitters, approvers, and auditors spend less time on expense reporting and more time on their strategic work, as they should be, of course. And maybe the most important one, improved efficiency. It will save you time and money from automating routine tasks in your manual process of expense management. Submitting 71%, approving 87%, audit checks 80%, and back office support 60% savings. And the final one, don't miss out on VAT eligible expenses that go unclaimed each year, as Concur can help you and your organization reclaim domestic and foreign VAT and improve your global tax compliance. And I think this wraps up the business case for Concur. And for now, I will stop here so you can digest the information, reflect, and qualify what your desired business outcomes are for yourself, but definitely for your organization, and see how we can maybe work together in the future to achieve some measurable results. So I will now hand over the floor over to my colleagues for the Q&A, and thank you.
Thank you, Sander. I think digesting would be the correct term here. For now, I don't see any questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. So no answers to be addressed, no questions to be addressed. Then I'd like to thank you, Sander. I'd like to thank Sam and Bart as well for their contributions. And to all participants in this webinar, you will receive the recording and the presentation later this week. So indeed, digest all the information you've just received. I see one question in the webinar. Thank you. Maybe a question to our experts. What is your experience with Concur Expense in combination with Concur Travel?
Yeah, so we had, I think, 2 clients that had indeed the combination between the two. So it's actually an implementation that we've done for the expense side, but and SAP Concur did the travel part. And yeah, the collaboration was really good, and also it resulted to a happy customer. I don't know, Sander, if you can add something here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, what we normally see is that a lot of customers start with the expense part, but eventually also think more about the travel part as well, because as you may know, we work together very closely with our TMCs, so the travel management companies, so companies like Amadeus, BCD Travel, and they will eventually provide us the tailor-made data that fits with your organization, because it eventually becomes visible for your employees. And I think, as I just wrapped up during the business case, the entire end-to-end process is the best way we think forward for you and organizations, instead of just solely using either one of the core solutions. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sander.
Thank you, Sander. Thank you so much, Sander. I don't see any questions popping up anymore. But should you have any questions after this webinar, feel free. One last question, perhaps, before we round off. So there's a question. I've heard the platform of travel will go through an evolution. Maybe Sander, there you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's true. It's going through an evolution. I think for the past years we've had it on our roadmap, on the top 3 list, and it's definitely, I think, kicking off this year in terms of all the developments being put through into the system. Concrete dates, I have to apologize, I don't have those for you, but yeah, I can definitely keep you in touch on all the new developments and when it will be live for you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer, Sander. All right. As mentioned, should you have any other questions after this webinar, feel free to contact us. We will send you the recording and the presentation later this week. And then, well, there's nothing left to do than to wish you all a pleasant rest of the day. Thank you all for joining. Thank you to the speakers for your contribution.
Thank you, Mathieu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mathieu.